This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Are you thinking about selling your dealership soon? Understanding the nuances can make all the difference in maximizing your dealership's value and finding the right buyer. Joining us now to shed light on the further is the founder of Bel Air Partners, Mr. Sheldon Sandler. You've seen him here before on CBT News. So Sheldon, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. They're selling and buying dealerships with groups all over the country. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Well, thanks for inviting us. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, Jim. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
What I'd like to do today, if I can, is I'm gonna give you some questions that were given to me and are given to me, sent in by dealers that want to get your take on this, okay, on these particular topics. So maybe we can almost do a little bit of a speed round so that we can cover as many of these questions and topics as we can. But I want to get your take on each one of them and what you say about them. So just kind of keep that in mind for the sake of time so we can get a lot of these in, okay? If you're
Thank
agreeable.
you. I've been doing this for 27 years, so I have a little
That's
bit
what
of
I'm thinking. You'll do this in your sleep, right? So I'll start with the first one, which is, how is an asking price of a dealership set? And I know that's a loaded question right there, but give us kind of the fundamentals.
It's never set until you market the deal to qualified, capable buyers. But first thing you do is you have an expert do evaluation to get some idea of what it might be worth. But it's all on who you're talking to, who the potential target buyers are. That's how you're going to find out. You don't know until you market the deal.
So even though somebody might get an appraisal, so to speak, on a dealership, it doesn't really mean much until you get somebody that says, I'm willing to cut you a check for that, much the way a car deal is done.
It's a starting point, like MSRP is a starting point.
Sure.
But you still have to go. The way to do this is to direct a marketing effort to a few select people who you're confident have the ability to buy the deal, have manufacturer approval pretty much sewed up, and aren't going to ask for any contingency. Serious buyers preferably have a strategic reason to buy the deal. That's who you want to.
Sure. Which it's a perfect segue into my next question. You might have answered it already, but who are the best buyers for any potential sale?
Totally depends on a number of factors, right? Size of the group that you're selling, or if it's an individual. Sometimes, and this is a real issue with our clients, sometimes your best buyer is the dealer next door. He knows the market, right? Or he or she knows the market.
Sure.
She understands that they have the capability, the management capability to get the deal done, and has the financial wherewithal to get the deal done. But sometimes, if it's a much bigger deal, you're going to go and look for much bigger groups who may not be local.
Sure.
And so it all depends on the specific deal you're talking about. It's like politics. All deals are local.
All right, so let me ask you this question. With that in mind, how do you limit the number of potential buyers to maintain confidentiality? Because as you know, if the word gets out that a dealership is for sale, you could lose an entire management team, or it could just consumers. It could get to the customers of that particular dealership and wreak havoc on it. So how do you keep that down to a limited number?
We like to keep it down to five. Five potential buyers.
Okay.
Because the people we deal with know that if we're showing a deal, it's only going to be sent to a few select buyers.
Sure.
And those buyers are typically people who we already know, who's already shown an interest, a proclivity to buy deals, and have had no problems with manufacturer approval, have no problems with getting financing. So it's market intelligence of who's out there who wants to buy a deal, your deal specific.
So what do you say to the dealer out there that says, "Look, I've got a great business. You know, it's been in our family now for 30 years. Very strong profits, great brands. when I go to sell, I don't even know why I need to use a broker. I'm sure somebody from my Dealer 20 group or somebody I met at NADA or a friend of mine would be happy to give me the number we're looking for. What do you say to somebody that asks why use a broker?
That is one of the biggest issues that we're facing since we started this 26 years ago.
Sure.
In almost every case, it's the dealer's primary asset.
Mm-hmm.
You would need an advocate. We are advocates. We don't represent both sides of the deal. We consider ourselves fiduciaries. I worked for the SEC for 12 years. I was a chief examiner. I was a CPA. I haven't learned that the dealer is best off having a representative who's looking out for their specific interest.
Mm-hmm.
We stay with the deal from soup to nuts.
Mm-hmm.
We do the valuation first. We stick by the information we're sending out to potential buyers, and we believe in the work. It's a lot of time. We're saving the dealer a lot of time, and we feel that the dealer is best off using an expert. We consider ourselves experts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that leads into the next question. If you had to pick 5 or 6 things, what should sellers look for when choosing the right broker for them?
Proven capability for maintaining confidentiality. Proven ability to get deals done. Particularly in our case, and I'm going to be an advocate for us, in Bel Air's case, we have very strong financial capability, and also we have an expert in real estate. This is typically not understood well enough. Real estate is 50% of a deal from our perspective.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that can be very contentious.
Sure.
What the dealership's that property's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that often raises its head, and you need someone who understands the real estate world as well as the blue sky world.
Sure. If I'm a dealer and I've been told you got to build a new facility and bring this store up to date, am I better off doing that before the sale or after, or just selling it as is and letting the next owner take that on?
You bring a very important issue. That's a motivation for certain older dealers typically who are selling a dealership, because they know they're going to go through a very expensive process of complying with the manufacturer's request to improve the facilities.
Right.
They say, well, let's sell.
But if in the event that the dealer says, in other words, is it financially rewarding for that dealer if he or she says, well, is it worth more, Sheldon, on the other side of a completion, so that new owner says, oh, you got the new facility and it meets all of the requirements, I don't have to touch it. Am I going to get more money for that store? I mean, obviously more than just the construction. Am I going to get more blue sky on that deal if the building's already set?
There's a real trade-off between blue sky and the value of real estate. Okay. It's self-serving for me to say this. We like as buttoned up a deal as we could have to sell, right? So typically we would like to see the real estate done, completed before we go out and sell. And oftentimes you're right. That does help get us a marketing advantage.
Sure.
But a lot of dealers don't want to do that ahead of time. And in fact, they know that when you present a buy-sell to a manufacturer, typically that's the number one thing the manufacturer is going to want from a new buyer is improved facilities.
That's right.
So it's a real yin and yang kind of thing. And personally, I prefer the real estate to be done.
Yeah.
But that, like you said, that might impact your blue sky all the way around.
Yeah.
So it's a real conundrum sometimes for what the dealer is going to do.
Sure. Now we've just come off of 4 incredible years in retail automotive. I mean, some of the earnings have been 3x over the last 3 years. How do you normalize earnings now? If I'm selling my dealership and I say, hey, we're running at X number of dollars, per year, bottom line, and I know that we're kind of getting back to that now, but do you factor in the previous years, even though they've been somewhat of an outlier?
Well, let's be honest. The typical buyer is already a dealer. 95% of deals are done between dealers. So the dealer that we're approaching to buy your deal already knows what the circumstances are. And if you're going to try to sell off of 2021, 22 earnings, you're going to be laughed at. So you've got to normalize earnings for what, and this is a little tricky, I'll admit, but it hasn't stopped the deal flow. What will the future look like? What's your 2019 look like?
Sure.
What and what do you see as your what's the potential projections? And buyers typically do. It's unspoken, but buyers typically do their own. A good buyer does his own valuations, what they think they can do with the deal, not what you've already done with the deal, but what the future is under their management.
Sure.
And so they're going to do that anyway. And we try to help them achieve the best price, the best earnings that we can possibly justify.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy out there, but that makes sense. So from a standpoint of the manufacturer, because they've got to sign off on all of this, right? If I'm a dealership or a dealer group that's got 10 stores, that I need 10 OEMs to give the final approval on the buyer, that the prospective buyer, right? Have you ever
Correct.
found that you get 7 out of the 10? And sometimes you get some of these, these OEMs that go, no, not that group or not that company or not that individual. Does that ever happen?
It's recently happened. We had a deal with five dealerships, 5 manufacturers. The buyer was, in our opinion, was a grade A national buyer. And I don't want to give too much away, but it was a Honda and a Kia deal and 3 other deals. Honda approved the deal and Kia turned down the buyer. So,
yeah, how do you figure, right?
Sort of not what we had expected. Let me put it that way.
Right.
But so we have to go find another buyer.
That's crazy. Do they ever approve?
A lot of it, by the way, depends on how the lawyer structured the deal.
Okay. Do they ever approve the deal with the understanding that within 6 months you got to find a new buyer for whichever store wasn't approved, or do they just say forget it?
Not in our experience. In our experience, they just turned down a buyer.
Okay.
And in our experience, we've been successful in finding alternative buyers.
Right.
That's part of why you would use a broker.
I was just going to say that's a huge advantage to using
we always,
guys, right?
A big part of our success has been always having, if there are problems in due diligence that we can't get over, we always have a second buyer. We always want to have a backup buyer.
Right. So let me ask you this for the $64,000 question. There's two-part question here. What are the best stores to buy, or I should say probably the most requested stores by dealers that say, we got to have this in our group, these stores in our group? What are the brands?
I don't want to be too glib here, because once again, it all depends on what the buyer already has and what they're looking forward to, and the location, the demographics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
right.
If I had to pick the most desirable brands at this point, and all brands are desirable depending on the situation. Okay, let me set that out first. There's never a dealership that you can't, if it's in Florida, you're going to be able to sell the deal in a snap of a finger. Florida's in such demand, so
that's crazy.
It's really, really important.
Yeah,
the location's important, but desirable brands, Subaru, Toyota's always at the top. Everybody always wants to be a Toyota dealer. Lexus probably will get you as top blue sky.
Yeah,
everybody, because there's so few Lexus dealers, and their sales figures are always terrific.
Yeah.
You can, Mercedes-Benz is always going to bring a top price. They're probably the number ones. There's other top tiers. I think everybody pretty much knows Honda is always attractive.
Sure. So what do you say about the balance of 2024? I mean, we've been riding this deal now for quite some time, that we're setting records in the number of acquisitions and transactions, I should say. What does the next 6 months look like in 2024 here for acquisitions?
All I can do is tell you what the dealers tell me, is that profitability is going to still, it's not going to be what it was, but
Yeah.
But then dealers are always optimists, aren't they?
Yeah. Is now still a good time to sell for those dealers that are out there that go, I might have missed the opportunity. Maybe I should wait. Maybe I should wait till rates calm down, or the economy, or inflation, or I get mixed comments on that,
First of all, you'll never get as much money selling a deal as you've been earning in the past 3 or 4 years. Let's get that, straight. Okay?
Yeah.
You're definitely going to sacrifice a certain, but you're not going to have the risk you had in the dealership world either. So You have to remember that. If you've waited all this time, you've already made a lot of money. If you had sold 3 years ago, you've already made a terrific amount of money.
That's true.
So the real idea is, what is your motivation for selling? Because I think I said many times before, I've said the retail world as we've known it has only got 5 years left, but I've been saying that for 20 years. So, there's no better time to sell a dealership than now, depending on what your motivations are.
Right.
But let me say, it's still a seller's market. It's definitely a seller's market.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great news. I mean, that's
well, that's self-serving, but I've criticized when I've said it publicly, it wasn't a good time to sell. So I have a history of being pretty straightforward. No, it's a good time to sell a dealership. There's plenty of good buyers out there.
Right, right. What other piece of advice that I might have missed here do you want to leave the dealers with today as we close out the segment?
Understand your best way to go about this is hire a broker who's got a fiduciary responsibility to advocate your best interests. Don't go for this bring me the highest bidder. No.
Yeah.
You want somebody who's an advocate for your situation.
Right. Right. And understand your situation. Right. I mean,
understand motivation. Understand one of the biggest things that we do is where's the opportunity to make more earnings under someone else's ownership.
Right.
We always like for our perspective, we like underperforming. We like to sell underperforming stores where there's upside. We've been stung when somebody's at 140% of sales efficiency.
Yeah.
We get stung then because nobody feels they can duplicate that experience.
Sheldon Sandler, founder of Bel Air Partners, for dealers out there that are listening to us have this conversation, and as we just went through these key points that many of you have sent in, this guy's knows what it takes, and he's been doing it for quite some time with some of the biggest automotive groups out there. So Sheldon, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We'll show the information right here for those of you that want to connect directly with Sheldon and maybe ask him questions on your own. So
yeah, I'd be happy to. That's part of what I really enjoy doing. It's not just trying to get deals done. Of course, that's number one. I love talking to dealers and answering questions. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.